Is Meta Platforms about to be broken up by the US government? And if you're an investor like me, what would that mean for your portfolio? Let's dive in and find out. In this video, I will break down what the Meta antitrust trial is all about and why it's happening now, the case against Meta and the critical evidence, Meta's defense and the likelihood of success, and possible outcomes and the implications for investors. If you're enjoying this, please smash that like button. The Federal Trade Commission, or FTC, is suing Meta for monopolizing the personal social networking market. The agency claims that Meta illegally acquired Instagram in 2012 and WhatsApp in 2014 to crush competition.
And that's bad enough.
According to internal emails, Mark Zuckerberg said it was better to buy than compete. The FTC is asking the court to force Meta to divest both Instagram and WhatsApp. So why is this happening now?
That's why I'm here.
The FTC, now under renewed antitrust leadership, is taking a more aggressive stance against past deals than it argues should never have happened in the first place.
I think that the direct of Mr. System went great for us. I think sort of the full scope of testimony, the documents that we've already gotten in, the documents that are going to come in, are going to make very clear that these acquisitions were about suppressing competition rather than promoting it.
The trial began about a month ago in mid-April of 2025 in Washington, D.C., making it one of the biggest antitrust showdowns in tech since Microsoft in the early 2000s. Although the acquisitions occurred over a decade ago, public concern around big tech's power has intensified over recent years, particularly during the pandemic era boom and the emergence of AI. New evidence and internal Meta documents have come to light in recent years, suggesting clearer intent to eliminate competition. According to internal emails, Mark Zuckerberg said it was better to buy than compete.
It's all about the money, boy!
There is also growing bipartisan political will to curb big tech dominance, making now the right political climate for such a high-stakes case.
We are seeing Republicans and Democrats come together on this, but the companies are fighting back. They're saying that this package of bills could mean the end of their most popular services, or at least make those services a lot less convenient. Now, this legislation covers companies with at least a $600 billion market cap and 50 million U.S. users, or 100,000 business customers a month.
This is about shaping the rules for big tech dominance for the next decade. So the FTC argues that Meta systematically eliminated emerging threats to its dominance by acquiring them before they could grow into legitimate companies. They define the market as, quote, personal social networking services, a narrow category where Meta has virtually no rival. The key allegation, Meta's acquisition strategy represents a buy or bury approach.
What does it mean?
Instagram was acquired as it was gaining explosive momentum in mobile photo sharing. WhatsApp was the leading global messaging app threatening Facebook Messenger's scale. Evidence includes internal documents and emails from executives showing a clear intent to neutralize competition by acquisition.
That's how business works.
FTC economists have testified that Meta's behavior raised barriers to entry, reduced innovation, and deprived consumers of alternatives.
I think my main focus is protecting American consumers, and that means meeting consumers where they are. And consumers interact with tech platforms a lot, and so of course that's going to be part of our focus.
The prosecution claims that Meta's market power allows it to impose data extraction, surveillance-driven advertising, and limited privacy choices.
Destroy the competition.
They also argue that allowing Meta to maintain control over WhatsApp and Instagram would discourage other startups and investors from entering the market due to fear of being crushed or acquired.
And big tech companies have been using this argument for a while, that they need to be left alone in order to compete. I think the way America competes is by being competitive domestically. That's how we innovate.
Meta's legal defense strategy hinges on 5 key pillars. Meta disputes the FTC's definition of the market as it narrowly is confining it to personal social networking services. Meta argues that it competes in a broader digital ecosystem that includes TikTok, YouTube, Snapchat, X, and even emerging AI platforms.
It kind of makes sense to me.
Meta maintains that both acquisitions were approved by regulators at the time and that overturning them now would set a dangerous precedent. It argues that Instagram and WhatsApp were small, unproven platforms at the time, and their growth post-acquisition was due to Meta's investment and infrastructure.
Now, then the question is, why were we excited to do this together?
I was excited, and Jan was, because of the internet.org vision and helping to connect everyone in the world, which I think clearly we can do, and we get a lot of leverage from working together on that. The other piece is that by being a part of Facebook, it makes it that they can focus for the next 5 years or so purely on connecting more people.
Meta asserts that its ownership in WhatsApp and Instagram has benefited users by providing better security, integrations, and global accessibility that wouldn't have been possible if they were independent. The company contends that it faces intense competition now more than ever before, particularly from TikTok, which has reshaped social media consumption habits globally.
TikTok might just be doing that for video. Facebook and Instagram are a lot of formats, right? So the same basic discovery engine technology that makes it so that you can understand what a person might be interested in and understand the meaning of all these posts and then match that up so that way you're showing a person something that they might be interested in, even if they never expressed an interest in that thing directly. That's going to apply to all these different formats. I think that's a really interesting problem and a really interesting opportunity that I think we uniquely have.
Meta argues that consumer attention and advertising dollars are more fragmented than the FTC suggests. Meta has hinted that aggressive regulatory overreach could stifle innovation and content distribution, raising potential constitutional and economic concerns. So what's the likelihood of success?
Let me think.
Legal experts are divided, but Meta's best chances lie in successfully challenging the FTC's market definition.
What happens if you lose? Are you worried about handing the president a loss?
I think we're going to win.
If the court agrees that competition from platforms like TikTok and YouTube are sufficient to discipline Meta's power, the entire foundation of the FTC's case could collapse.
Yes, but
The internal communications, especially those referencing buying competitors, remain a significant liability.
The weakest part of its case is actually whether or not Facebook is a monopoly in the first place, whether or not Meta is a monopoly. It has to prove both monopoly power and an act of exclusion that allowed it to maintain that monopoly power.
The case is expected to be appealed regardless of the outcome, meaning a final resolution could take years. In the meantime, investor uncertainty may persist. So what are the possible outcomes?
I'm taking notes.
Meta wins the case. So the status quo would continue, there's no breakup, and the stock probably gets a relief rally. Court forces a breakup. So Meta would have to spin off Instagram and WhatsApp. This could take years through appeals. It also creates short-term uncertainty, but possibly unlocks long-term shareholder value. Investors get shares in the spun-off companies. Frankly, I'd be a huge fan of this.
that sounds good to me.
Settlement or structural remedies. Meta keeps its assets, but it agrees to limitations on future acquisitions or behavioral changes. Possible monetary settlement, less disruption, but continued regulatory overhang. So what are the implications for investors?
He's an investor.
Short-term regulatory risk is going to weigh on the stock. Headlines are going to drive volatility, which could create buying opportunities. Medium-term, a breakup. While chaotic, this could result in a value unlock if the sum of the parts exceed the whole. Long-term, this trial could set a precedent for how tech M&A is viewed going forward, which would affect Meta and its Mag 7 rivals. So what's the takeaway? If Meta wins, it strengthens its position and clears a major overhang. If Meta loses, it could be the beginning of a corporate reorganization that paradoxically might benefit shareholders. Frankly, I wouldn't mind having Instagram and WhatsApp spun off because they would be a perfect target for a private equity buyout.
Is there any other way to see it?
Either way, the stock is likely to be volatile, and the case will shape the next 10 years of big tech regulation. I am a huge fan of Meta, the only diversified pure-play social media company out there, and it's currently 5.2% of my portfolio. If you're holding Meta or thinking of buying, you need to understand this trial, but you need to know what Meta is worth. If you want to see my in-depth stock valuation of Meta, you could check out that video here, or check out my HIMS valuation here. And if you found this valuable, please share this with someone who you think would enjoy this. As always, be relentless.